Welcome to today's CYBERISLE webinar. Some of you may be returnees, having listened to the prior webinars over the month, 2 of which I provided. I do hope you found them useful. And some of you may be listening for the first time. No matter, as welcome to you all. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Beasley, and I am currently the Senior Manager and Service Line Lead for Cybersecurity, Privacy and Digital at KPMG on the Isle of Man. So, on with today's webinar. A top-level overview of 2 well-known, often referred to and sometimes misunderstood standards, ISO 27001 and ISO 22301. These standards should be given some due consideration. To note though, and I hope I do get this point across, ISO standards are well-defined, structured and reliable sources to develop your own policies, processes and procedures. They provide you the framework for you to follow and to align to, but they aren't a silver bullet, by no means, but they are, however, a good means to understand your current situation, your stance, your position, and help you reach a far greater place with structured and defined processes, procedures, and policies underpinning your new environment. They also enable structured understanding both across the organisation and in reporting to key stakeholders. Having the right aligned culture is always key to successful adoption, remember. As I mentioned, I will only cover 27001 and 22301 today, but there are many others out there, such as 31000 for risk and 27701, the new ISO privacy framework. So what is ISO 27001? ISO 27001 gives you a best practice management framework for implementing and maintaining security. Just to affirm though, it is not a security standard. It also gives you a baseline against which to work, either to show compliance or for external certification. ISO 27001 takes a risk assessment based approach. An information security risk assessment is used to identify the security requirements of the organisation and to then identify the security controls needed to bring that risk within an acceptable level for that organisation. Once the security controls have been identified, and ISO 27001 defines processes to ensure that A, these controls are implemented and are effective, and B, that the controls continue to meet the organisation's security needs. The standards enable businesses to specify what measurements are to be used to assess the control effectiveness and guides on how to measure the selected controls effectiveness. To note, there are over 130 controls in Annex A to ISO 27001, and ISO 27002 provides guidance on the controls that you may consider. Additionally, the standards offer a way to ensure measurements are comparable and reproducible. They can be used time and time again and compared year on year, thus enabling the identification of trends, for example. So, do organisations need to measure security effectiveness in the first place? Quite simply, yes. Many say they are secure, but how can you demonstrate this? How can you show that the security controls are working effectively? For example, can your organisation demonstrate ongoing improvements in efficiency? Show that it is meeting all its legal, regulatory and compliance requirements with applicable standards and contractual requirements, such as PCI DSS. Clearly and effectively show clear reasoning for future expenditures and programs based on evidence for the current. Highlight and be cognizant of both the effective and ineffective controls applied in the management of your risk. Provide a structured and methodical assurance to audit senior management and stakeholders that risk-justified implemented controls are working effectively. And prove that an appropriate return on investment has been made. Some of the other benefits of applying this standard, and also for 22301 later, are they enable appropriate root cause analysis following an incident, has the potential to reduce the number of incidents, supports management in the setting of applicable targets and goals in relation to the standard, streamlines and makes efficiencies across an organisation through common working practices, standards, policies and processes, allows for greater visibility on the return on investment, and may support audit activities both internal and external. It also provides assurance to external parties, customers and wider stakeholders of your intentions to remain secure and stable. If the standard is implemented properly and in a sustainable, properly resourced way, the ability to monitor prior, new and required controls for business efficiency will become apparent. The controls will be known, they will be monitored, they can be assessed, and gaps will be highlighted. However, at all times make sure that you keep abreast of the changing environment. Set new baselines as and when required, such as post an incident or undertaking major changes. From the outset though, and it will take time, so be cognizant of this, but you need to decide on a risk method and implement a risk assessment, select your security controls and ensure that these are adequate to meet the security needs of your organization. This requires information risk management and security expertise to implement. ISO 27001 does not tell you how to do this, but rather provides a framework within which to do it. I've referred to controls a number of times so far, so it may help if I elaborate slightly in it. In essence, there are four main groupings for controls. Management controls, such as security policies and procedures, IT policies, fundamental business continuity, business objectives, and management reviews. The next set is business processes, which encompass risk assessment and risk treatment management processes, resourcing and media handling processes, for example. Then there's operational controls, for example, what operational procedures, change control, problem management, program management, release management, backup, secure disposal, co-location of equipment, software development lifecycle, etc. And then there are technical controls. Typically, these include such things as antivirus controls, IDS or intrusion detection systems, data loss prevention systems, firewall, content filtering, patch management, and so on. So on now with 22301. 22301 is a standard that is very specific, and many feel that if you have 27001 that you have all the aspects of business continuity and disaster recovery covered. Unfortunately, this is not quite true. ISO 27001 does have elements of business continuity and disaster recovery embedded in it, but it does not fully cover what is best practice, nor gives you an appropriate framework to work towards and against. Like 27001, 22301 provides you with a framework, guides you in your determination of the risks and the issues you should be aware of and that may be applicable. All in all, business continuity and disaster recovery management takes into account the whole enterprise. Excuse me, its customers, suppliers, employees, and the environment within which it operates. All stakeholders are mapped and defined. As a bit of a side note, and caught me out initially during my training to become accredited in 22301, an employee is a stakeholder, that we all agree, but their family is also actually defined as a stakeholder, above and beyond just the employee themselves under the standard. Business continuity and its management is concerned with ensuring that operations continue in both normal and abnormal circumstances, such as when an incident occurs that would otherwise severely impact continuity of business. Business continuity management considers a broader spectrum of incidents that could impact business operations, from utilities to communications, environment to political, transport to buildings, and so on and so on. It is a broad brush. It is a big picture discipline concerned with the planning and testing for mitigation of a wide range of possible impacts to a business and its ability to sustain operability. There are four key elements to a business continuity management system. These are the organizational needs, business continuity policy and objectives, the implementation and operating controls for managing disruption, the monitoring and reviewing of the performance of the business continuity management system, and a process of continuous improvement in the business continuity management system. Business continuity management is as big as you allow it to be. It can easily grow out and out. It can get out of control, but match it to your organization and your business environment. That's fundamental. When you're developing a business continuity management system, the main planning activities include such things such as a business impact analysis. This is the identifying and classifying the critical and non-critical functions. Contextually, critical means any function that the business cannot operate without, even in the short term. These may also be mandated in laws or regulations. And non-critical functions are those that the business can operate without, either in the short or longer term. Initially, consider only those essential and develop them overall the time you take to do this. bring in the bigger ones, the non-critical functions, as you deal with the critical functions. Next would be the threat and risk assessment. This is the identification of the potential threats to the enduring operation of your business and evaluation of the associated risks, both internally and externally. Of course, there is far more to business continuity management than planning. A good, comprehensive BCMS will encompass the planning, scoping, the verification and re-verification, the implementation, the testing, the review and the revision. Ensure, as your business grows, so does your BCMS. Remember, business continuity management considers the needs of the whole enterprise, its customers, suppliers, employees, and the environment within which it operates. Under the ISO standards 27001 and 22301, they present a simple cycle to follow. This is known as the Plan, Do, Check, Act model, PDCA, where plan is the development of the business continuity management plan, etc., the policies, the objectives, the targets, the controls. The do is the implementation and the operation of the plan, detailed processes and the procedures. The check is the monitoring and the checking of the system against the objectives and determination of those actions that for any identified or potential improvement. And the act, finally, is the maintenance and continuous improvement, taking action to correct or improve the system, and if required, the revision of the plan. In summary, following on from today, the key things to remember are both these ISO standards give you a respected best practice management framework. They also give you a baseline against which to work, either to show compliance or for external certification against the standard. However, compliance or external certification to these does not mean you are secure or safe. It means that you are managing in line with the standard and to a level defined by you as appropriate to your business. If your risk assessment is flawed, you don't have sufficient security and risk assessment expertise, or you do not have the management or organizational commitment to implement these, then it is perfectly possible to be fully compliant with the standard but be insecure or unable to respond to an event. However, implementing these standards are the right way forward, but they'll only be effective if you develop an appropriately aligned culture. Keep that in mind. Here are some of my key points to consider that may grease the adoption and implementation of the ISO standards. Have strong management commitment. This is essential. Define individual ownership and responsibility for information security and business continuity. Ensure you have effective information security and business continuity education and awareness for all staff. Clearly and succinctly map the objectives of the business to the objectives of the standard you are applying. This is fundamental, but regrettably it is typically only given a cursory level of attention. Give the implementation to appropriate resources and ensure they have the right resource. Ensure there is appropriate staff, ensure there is appropriate time, and ensure there is enough money. The return on investment will become evident in time. And finally, always be realistic with your organisation's risk appetite. Too cautious, you may restrict your output and it will cost you more. Too relaxed, and you'll be susceptible and may cost you more if something goes wrong. Balance your risk appetite accordingly and have the appropriate risk scoring, weighting and identification methodology. Just bear in mind at all times, it takes time and effort to get to the level required to attain your accreditation, but the benefits and systemic changes it can instill in your organisation can be worth the effort. Thank you for your time today, and I do hope it has been worthwhile to use for you. Remember, adoption can be a minefield and confusing, but there are people like me out there who can help guide you, remove the haze and support you. Reach out to someone if you want to discuss further. Many thanks, and I do hope you are able to benefit from today's webinar, and do enjoy the remainder of the CYBERISLE series.